Good night. Also, thanks to the ones that are following us from Rosario, Argentina.
I don't want to say anything too soon, but I think I might have it.
You think this is your best work yet? This is your masterpiece?
Yeah. This is my David, my Mona Lisa of side scan.
I don't know, the last turn on the other line was really good.
This is a different technique, so we're trying something out. But
For the people that are following us on the quad feed, you can see how our amazing navigator is going to turn.
oh, stop.
Para la gente que nos sigue en castellano, pueden ir al canal Quad y van a mirar cómo están distribuidas las líneas de escáner que estamos haciendo para encontrar puntos posibles para bucear luego, y cómo nuestro navegador va pasando entre líneas.
Man, that USBL.
Yeah, every time thrusters kick up,
Yeah.
doesn't like the interference.
It's going to mess up the artwork of your turn.
Yeah, you'll see the general idea of it. It's abstract.
Yeah.
God, what have they got down here?
What did you do?
Mike's breaking
Oh, you're going to go the other way. It won't roll around. That's what I want.
Ah.
The space between lines is 100 meters, more or less, right?
It's 200 meters.
Oh, 200.
Yep.
Okay.
On high pack, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that way we're getting full coverage with the high res sonar, and we're getting overlap with the low res sonar.
Perfect.
Low frequency, sorry. So it's 100 and 150 are the two ranges.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm sorry. Are the two, yeah, ranges. So this full swath is 200 and 300.
Perfect.
Hashtag math.
Learn your numbers. So if we find some parts of the Smoan Clipper, are we taking some of those artifacts or pieces?
It's possible, probably not, but we'll evaluate the site's condition. If we were to, it would be if there were a small piece there of the wreckage and it looked like there was active corrosion, we might take one as an environmental sample to study what the site's condition's like. But we're not likely to recover pieces of the wreckage or engines or anything like that. We prefer to leave it in place as a grave site.
Okay. We have a question from a little one that's asking about sharks living around sunken wrecks. What do you think about that?
What's the question? Are there sharks living on wrecks?
Is it true that they live in sunken wrecks?
Well, they don't really live in them, but shipwrecks do act as artificial reefs, whether they were sunk intentionally for that purpose or they sank and became artificial reefs. Corals and sponges like hard substrate to settle on and grow. So shipwrecks make very good reef structure for them. And so sharks will come around reefs, whether they're natural or artificial, to eat the fish and things that are living around it. So they don't live inside wrecks really, but they will come around wrecks because other organisms and fish and stuff are living on and around them.
Cool.
That reminded me of something. When is Shark Week?
It starts
It's
the
already.
Sunday I get back. Or no, I think it's the first week of August.
First week of August?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I need to pay attention. When I was diving last month out at Bikini Atoll in the Marshall Islands, and we saw a great tip or a white tip reef shark while doing a shallow dive. But then when I dove the wreck of the aircraft carrier USS Saratoga, a juvenile tiger shark came around, which was pretty incredible.
Ooh.
I had not seen one of those before, and it came about 40 feet away. It came to check us out, so it was juvenile, but it was still like longer than me. So
So
it was
awesome.
scary and awesome at the same time.
I love sharks. Those are one of my favorite animals on Earth.
Same.
Or ocean.
Same.
What's your favorite shark?
Tiger shark.
Great white.
And that was true before I saw one. I will preface with that. Great white?
Yeah, you can't live off Cape Cod without great whites being your favorite.
Well, that's only
that.
recently true.
I mean, they've been there for the longest time that people haven't realized, ever since the 80s when they put in the Marine Mammal Protection Act and you weren't able to hunt the seals anymore.
Yeah.
They've been showing up, but yeah, there's just been a huge boom in the seal population, and you know, where there's more seals, there's more food.
Yeah.
So, yeah, catch Cape Cod on Shark Week.
I love hammerhead sharks.
I like the when they talk about the mako sharks on Shark Week, because they're like really fast, and they've done things where they like tow decoy fish in the water really fast, and they like film them swimming behind the camera. So
Yeah.
that's pretty fun. They're all throughout the Gulf. They kind of live around the oil rigs, which, going back to the artificial reef question, oil rigs act as hard substrate as well, and so the mako sharks actually feed around the oil rigs. So it's deep water for them, but there's still like reef structure for it.
I was diving in the Cayman Islands, and there was a shore dive we did to this little kind of cave overhang where a lot of tarpon would hang out. And so we did the dive, and it was awesome, and there was all the tarpon just hanging out there, great reefs. And we got back, and one of the guys goes, "Oh yeah, do you guys see any of the hammerheads?"
Oh my God.
Like, excuse me? He goes, "Oh yeah, there's always this one that hangs around there that feeds on the tarpon." Are you telling me that you gave us tanks and didn't give us that knowledge? But yeah, I guess it's more of a seasonal thing, and we weren't in its territory, at least momentarily. But yeah, these tarpon were like 5 or 6 feet long. It looked like.
Oh wow.
They're huge. Well, they get fed a lot of times by the restaurants. It's a thing where they give people like feed for a price, and they get to feed them out down by the docks.
Well, that means the hammerhead must be quite large if it's feeding on 5 to 6 foot
I
fish.
gotta imagine.
What do you think is this substrate like? Because it's very different from the one that looked like mud, right?
Well, it's probably also, I mean, the substrate itself is probably still mud, but this
Yeah.
has a lot more rock that's tumbled down. So we're in an area of more hills, so it's going to have more rock that's fallen free. But the substrate itself is probably still the same,
Okay.
or is a similar sediment type. We just have more small rock, rubble kind of in a way, as part of it.
Cool. That looks like a spaghetti factory. Or ramen.
Yeah,
Yeah, more
Package.
like ramen, yeah.
Ramen package, yeah.
like a true waterfall.
Oh, yeah.
Are you guys talking about the side scan or the high pack? Because it could be either.
Yeah, side scan.
I can see it, yeah, both kind of are.
Yeah.
The ramen typically isn't green.
Yes. High packs all over the place too.
Yeah.
Ships online. Argus still coming on behind. Slight amount of cross-track error that we'll make up.
So what kind of permissions did we have to get before doing this exploration?
So this is American. It is technically American waters because it's American Samoa, but they only claim out to 3 miles for their territorial waters, and so this is technically outside of that. So, other than permissions for with the Coast Guard of the ship, them knowing the ships in the area, there weren't any specific permits needed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know with our last cruise, we had a lot of permits and stuff because we were in a protected marine sanctuary.
Yeah.
So we needed permits just to take samples and be in the area. making sure they kept track of ships and what kind of footprint they had.
How's your Mona Lisa going there?
It's going well. The definitely the USBL I think is messing up a little of its smoothness, but you can get a general idea of it's curving around. It looks like Argus will get on behind us before it crosses the line, so we should get a good full scan.
Nice.
This line's bearing is 260.
How come the sector scanning is going the wrong direction?
Can, there you go.
Thank you. Yeah, the world is wrong.
When people run the other direction around a track.
Yeah,
Like, no.
Maybe it was set up by an Australian or something.
that's right. We're on this side now.
I suppose we
That side.
are actually on this
Yeah.
the other side of the equator. Yeah,
It switched when we went over.
it's winter here.
Yeah, it is. It is winter. I was thinking about it. With our latitude, we're further away from being under the sun's like highest point than I would be back home.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Huh.
because it's June 21st. It should be just at about 23.5 degrees north. Is like what you consider like directly under the sun, though.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And we are at what 14 south.
Yeah, something like that.
And it's moved a little, but not that much. And Cape Cod is 41.
Hmm. That's cool. So you're saying we don't need sunscreen?
No, definitely not. It's all safe to go outside.
That's what I took away from that.
Yeah, that's. No, it's definitely still the tropics.
You don't need sunscreen for sitting in this dark box, though.
That is true. It definitely felt hot when I was when we were on in Apia. The sun definitely felt strong.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to do that again.
Yeah, to our followers, channel 1 is showing the return we get from our sonar, our side scan sonar. Channel 2 is showing what the camera under Argus is capturing, and the quad is showing the lines we are scanning through, trying to find possible targets to dive later on this week.
Hey, Chris, I know we're still trying, kind of settling out, but if we could get her either just further starboard, either on the line or slightly over, just because of where Argus was on the last line, which is
Yeah, right.
further
Yeah,
north.
with it tracking left. Yeah, roger that. I can do it.
Thanks.
Bridge nav. Would we be able to track slightly to starboard to get close to the line? Thank you so much.
So how many points of interest do we have so far? 23?
25.
We've
Oh.
logged 25 targets.
25. Okay, cool. We are. I'm gonna go have some food, so Maddie's gonna be with you for half an hour or so, and then I'll be back.
All right, so the dinner relief crew has stepped into the control van.
Spoiler alert, it's not pizza.
Oh, man.
We were hoping
Boo.
for that.
Summer
Spoiler
just
alert.
made up that it was going to be pizza. And
I
got
just,
everyone
I was hoping for the best.
That's every breakfast.
Yeah.
I didn't actually see what it was, but it didn't smell. I mean, it
Didn't
smelled
smell
pretty
like
good.
pizza?
It didn't smell like pizza, but it
Hey,
didn't.
wait, you can't spoiler alert if you don't actually know.
Yeah.
I didn't say that.
I don't know who I'm talking to.
That's me.
Well, yeah, I guess should we just do a quick round so we know that whoever's here? This is Maddie, the SCF, stepping in for Valeria.
Renato Kane as navigator.
Renato Kane not on SPL.
Am I not on SPL?
Or you're muted?
Check.
Oh, now I hear you.
There you go.
Sorry.
Renato Kane, navigator.
I'm Dan. I'm just here.
Oh, hey.
He's piloting Hercules very, very well.
Doing
Yeah.
nothing except taking up oxygen, creating heat.
Summer carrying the team as usual. On Argus, my back sore. Over to you, Allison.
Allison filling in for Steven.
And us in the back are still the 4 to 8 watch. I told them to come after they ate. It didn't matter. So Mike here, watch leader.
DD Mark's here. I'm just filling in for a time being until my regular watch at 8.
She's still captivated by sides game.
Yeah, I just can't get enough. And Rebecca, still data logger.
All right, is that the crew? That's everyone, huh?
Yep.
Cool.
We've got some other fun. We've got Devin and Ed back here tinkering with cameras and things. But they're not on any sort of headset.
Awesome. So when I was here last, I think we had 13 potential targets marked. Has that changed in the 8 hours since I was here?
Yeah, we're up to 25 now.
Oh wow.
Yes. Some of them we marked that they're just kind of interesting things that we thought worth marking, but are pretty likely geology. But there were a couple that are very interesting and we'll probably pursue later on with additional sonar passes, looking at them with the camera on Argus at like not as we go by, but sort of like near that time, and then potentially dive, depending on what we see, then potentially dive on them with Hercules once we reattach the second ROV.
Sure, and that's a good reminder that we are looking for the Simone Clipper, but there's a chance we can discover all sorts of stuff here, right? So kind of marking and taking that into consideration as we go about this with, the breadth of discovery.
Yeah, Russ and I were chatting before about there could be other things down here. We were talking specifically like ship or aircraft wrecks, but we were thinking that we probably would have heard of that. That was just kind of a arbitrary discussion on how to interpret things that we find that look man-made, but we don't know of any other wrecks or aircraft or shipwrecks that are in the area. There certainly could be things that don't make the news or are infamous sort of things, like if a tugboat or something capsizes or sinks or whatever, so there are always the potential to have shipwrecks and other debris, man-made debris in the area, so there's always a potential to find those sorts of unexpected but still archaeological and cultural man-made discoveries. But then one of the amazing things about how we're using Argus for this is I really just did not expect to be able to see the seabed while we were getting the range that we wanted on the sonar. So the fact that we're able to get out to almost 300 meters of coverage with the sonar and see the bottom is really great, because with side scans, one of the big downsides is that we always have a blind spot, because as the name suggests, we're sending sound signals out to either side, so the depth directly below Argus, or whatever towfish we're using, is always hidden from us from what we're mapping. And so that was a kind of a question. It's like, well, is a 20-meter gap in our coverage an issue. And you know, when you're looking for something as small as an aircraft, it could be. So now that we're able to see the seabed, we're kind of cutting out that question of the blind spot. But in addition, we're able to see the sediment type, the seabed, the rockiness of it. So it was a very pleasant surprise to see that we were able to get that in our data set as well. And just to give video something to do.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit more fun here in the control van as well. And for our viewers, I'm sure. And so, you know, when we're looking at this side scan sonar, the Argus feed, you said, it's capturing about 20 meters. How far out is the side scan sonar capturing?
Yeah, so we have two frequencies, a high and a low frequency. It's 300 kilohertz and 600 kilohertz. The 300 low frequency is set to 150 meters on either side, so it's a 300 meter swath. And the high frequency goes out to 100 meters, so a 200 meter swath. So with our 200 meter spaced lines, we're getting nearly full coverage with the high frequency, and then we're getting overlap coverage with the low frequency, which is good because Argus isn't quite staying online. It's really not designed to be a tow fish, so we're kind of forcing it into this position. And it's been a little offline, so with the coverage at 300 meters, we're able to capture still some overlap, which is good for making sure we get everything that we want to. We make sure that we get 100% coverage.
Yeah, and like you were saying about the camera, I mean, 20 meters and our spacing is 200 meters. I think 10% being able to see that in a grid-like pattern it's not insignificant if there were to be a debris field. You'd be able to hopefully see something.
That having been said, we have not. We've only seen rocks and mud. But if we went over it, we would.
Right.
And a lot of people ask us, you know, is there an actual dive team on board? And I think it's worthwhile to note that this is all remote operated vehicles. So generally speaking, we have Argus and Hercules in this dual ROV system, you know, because 3,000 meters where it's at now is pretty cold, pretty deep, and pretty pressurized.
Yeah, the dive team consists of Herc and Argus.
Right. And then, you know, of course, for this dive, we are using just Argus. And do we want to sort of touch it on why that decision was made? What services Argus do maybe that Hercules can't offer?
I guess as the Argus pilot, I will speak on that. We can cover a lot more ground doing it this way, so we're using Argus kind of as a tow fish, in this case a tow weight, and it would just take a longer time to maneuver the ship around with the two vehicles to do it that way. So yeah, just more coverage, and definitely can get closer to the seafloor with Argus this way. So that's the reason.
Yeah, and to just add to that, from our perspective as trying to do a survey in deep water, there's only a couple of ways that you can find something like the Simone Clipper in deep water, and it's really the two options are deep tow side scan or a deep AUV. And so the AUVs can be programmed to go down and do a survey and then come back. And the deep tow side scan, we do what we're doing, which is running track lines with a ship. AUVs are expensive, and there's risk associated with that. They're not tethered to something, so that if there's an issue, you can't recover them. We looked at both, and with Nautilus in the area and having Argus and the sonar available, an AUV would have had to have been shipped from the States, and there's clearances, there's cost, there's quite a bit of cost if you think about putting something that big and heavy into a container with all the necessary spares and equipment. So we opted to do this as the survey method. I had used Argus with the side scan sonar attached to it many years ago, and it worked well enough to be able to find targets. It wasn't the best data set, and you can see kind of some of the heave that's in the data. but the engineers developed a fin for Argus, which has definitely stabilized some of the data. It doesn't take out the heave, which is what from the motion of the ship, but it does make it a little bit more hydrodynamic, so it's streaming a little bit better behind the ship. So there was definitely a lot of discussion and thought into how we wanted to approach the survey, and so we're on what, line 6, so we're doing our due diligence and being patient with watching the rocks go by.
We need to do a mic check. You're fuzzy.
Apparently the whole back row's been fuzzy.
Wait, can you speak too?
Test.
Yours
Test.
is fuzzy as well. Science 1 and 2 are fuzzy, and I'm fuzzy as well.
We're having a back row fuzziness with the audio.
Do you guys hear it?
I think the front, we hear it
I
loud
think
and
Ed's
clear.
aware.
It sounds pretty good up here.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's fine going out on the feed. Okay, that's fine.
Mike, you mentioned using the same.
Oh, that was fast.
Oh, did it? Does it sound better? Oh, the same side scan sonar technology. Was that? It was almost a decade ago, right? In the Mediterranean. Do you want to talk a little bit?
On.
Hey, not to date any of us here.
Yeah. So, well, we started. So I was at the University of Rhode Island with Bob Ballard and team, starting in 2004. So 15 years ago, and we got this sonar in its original towfish, not as part of Argus, in 2008, which we used off of a couple of small boats in the Aegean and Black Sea area, and then we had it on Nautilus for the first couple of many of the first missions with Nautilus in 2009. But it was really good for relatively shallow water, like down to like 400 or 500 meters of surveying, and we actually had a completely separate winch for it. So the one that Argus is hanging off of, that cable, we had a much smaller winch and cable, which I think is actually still on board, that we would run that off. But to be fair, Nautilus is a bit big of a ship to be towing a side scan in shallow water around, but that's what we had at the time. And then once we left the Mediterranean area for the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico and now the Pacific, that towfish couldn't really go down to beyond 500 meters, so there was a much smaller area where it became useful, so it really hasn't been used very much recently. Oh, that's interesting, huh?
It's like a Kopi pod.
Looks like a shark tooth.
Oh.
The bottom part, yeah.
Sorry, I was looking at the Argus cam.
So I think we're going to have to log this as a shark tooth. Let's wait till it goes through. It's weird. There's something sticking up in the shadow there. All right, so we have a target at 60 meters to port.
60 to port.
With the target name of Shark Tooth.
Shark Tooth. Ooh-ha. No,
Just
it's
kidding.
shark bait. No, don't actually put that, but
no.
It's funny.
$26.
Yes.
Yeah.
Roger.
Oh yeah, there's a straight line connecting it, which is interesting.
Yeah, this is actually a fairly interesting target. This is weird. This part down here is actually there's
those two parallel lines are
there's
interesting.
parallel lines, and there's some pointy stuff in the
there's a little bit of the
in
next
the shadow.
Hump. There's a little bit of a spike in the next hump.
Yeah, it is interesting.
The technical hump.
Yeah.
All right, I am done with that
All right.
screen. Thank you.
Save.
Dee Dee, this might be a good question for you. We spoke a little bit about how that sort of big black area in the middle of the side scan sonar data is basically where Argus is hovering. Is there overlap between the video and the side scan, and you know, how does that help inform the overall data?
Yes, so the black area that you're seeing in the waterfall is called the nadir. That is the gap where there is no data being recorded because there's a blank spot. It's located right under the vehicle. So we are lucky enough to have Argus's cameras that can fill in that gap of about 20 meters. So the camera field of view is coincidentally matching the nadir at roughly 20 meters. So we are able to fill in that gap and not miss anything.
And when we are looking for these different objects on the seafloor, you know, how do you tell one from the other, right? Some are more interesting, like the one you just logged. Maybe how does that differ from ones that could be more biologically characteristic of, you know, something that's natural versus human-made?
Yeah, so as we are watching the imagery scroll down from the waterfall, we are looking for objects that appear man-made in origin. Typically, items in nature do not have straight lines. They do not have right angles. Like rock formations are rounded edges without, you know, strict corners. So any item that has a straight line is something that might interest us, as well as the sonar reflects off of different materials at a different level, so the rocks have a slightly different reflectivity or return versus aluminum in the case of an airplane, or iron, steel, wood with a shipwreck. So those are we're looking, and if we see something that looks like a possible candidate of a man-made object, we are marking those as a target, and we'll go back and reassess and prioritize them for further study.
And this area that we're surveying right now is about 2 square miles, which is a little more than 5 square kilometers. And we're going about it in a lawnmower style pattern. So, right, that's pretty self-explanatory, reminiscent of anyone who's ever mowed their lawn ever. And it takes just about as, you know, maybe a little bit more time than a lawn, a very big lawn.
What, you don't mow your lawn for 2 days straight?
I live in the city. I don't have a lawn. What is a lawn?
That tiny patch of weeds growing out of the sidewalk.
We played a little game yesterday. Was it last night? Was it this morning? I don't remember. But to see who came the farthest away, right? We're looking for an airplane, so I'll start. I came from San Francisco. It was only a 30-hour jaunt with a layover and another few hours on the opposite side. Anyone have me beat?
Seattle, so I'm a bit farther north than you.
Steve and I came from Massachusetts.
It's a bit farther.
I was in New York, but I think Mass beats that.
What part of New York, though?
Just north of New York City.
Yep, we beat that. What do we win?
It was a fuzzy feeling inside.
I think Suna had us all beat. She came from Turkey, I believe, and
Yep.
Turkey to Honolulu, and then hopped on the Nautilus from there. So I guess she's still the reigning champ.
I'm bad with all that stuff. I'm going to still say Massachusetts is farther.
All right, we'll let you have it if it means that much to you. All right, we heard a rumor there may have been pizza in the kitchen. Is that? Nope.
It's a lie.
That's a lie.
No.
And if there was, it'd probably be gone by now. Because usually the pizza goes pretty quick.
Yeah, last cruise, one of our SCFs, Justin, it got to a point where he would say stuff just like in the data lab or out and about in the lounge social deck, just completely away from the galley, and whatever he said he wanted would be for dinner that day. One day he's like, oh, it'd be great to have a burger. It was the first day we had ever had burgers.
Oh.
Wait, okay, so was it a self-fulfilled prophecy? Did he know what was for dinner, or?
No, he didn't. He did the same thing with pizza and something else.
Oh, he was just some sort of dinner guru.
Yeah. Summon pogo
Hello,
sticks.
Devin. Oh, it does help.
Now I'm working.
Yeah, just keep pressing those Herc buttons and see what happens. I'll reset your DVL if you turn all the autos off.
Gotta look busy.
Get you like a name tag.
I'm gonna try a bingo card.
You have to make sure you put like finding an airplane on there. The free space is mud.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you print one out?
No, it's gonna be this morning's thing.
You're gonna do that between now and our next watch?
I'll just get off and print it out. I have no idea how to print things on board, so I'll ask.
You can ask Trevor about the printer.
Yeah. Don't ask, get it? Yeah, we're all fed up with it.
TCP, load TCP letter.
Yeah. It's trying to pull the paper out of it. It's trying to take it back in. It's just making a mess.
So what, your office space, what do you have it on, like DVD or a drive, or what do you got? Hard drive?
No, I got it off file off somebody else there.
Every time I end up laughing really loud, I have to turn off SPL or else I feel like I'm going to blow everyone's eardrum. Oh, I'm crying.
got a question coming in about the sonar data. Will, in sort of post-production or analysis afterwards, will these waves be removed, or is it too complex to factor out?
I think that Mike and Dee Dee from Searching have some way of being able to remove some of these wiggles and stretches, but I'm not sure exactly what it is.
Yeah, the I think Mike was saying for the program, most of these waves are caused by the heave of the ship, because Argus is designed to absorb all of that motion, typically for Hercules. But unfortunately, with the side scan here, it causes those waves as it gets pulled up and down in the water column. And we were not able to put an input for heave into the program, so it's not compensating out for it. But there is a way to get rid of it, just this not being a typical setup of a towfish that would normally be set up with side scan. It's just not calibrated the same way.
Mm.
Right, so Argus was kind of outfitted in this abnormal technology, right? I mean, this isn't really what he wears down to the depths of the ocean.
Yeah, so they put the side scan on, which usually we just have the meso, the sonar that gives us our proximity to just like rocks and obstacles we don't want to run into. And then they actually outfitted a fin for it, so as we towed it, it would be able to track straighter on the line. It's like dragging a brick through the ocean on 3,000 meters of line. Without help, it's not really going to want to go straight.
All right, well, thanks for letting me crash your party, guys. Valeria's back.
Okay.
Hey, Valeria.
I knocked your water bottle over.
Anything new? No?
Don't think so. I just got here. Hey, Valeria.
Hi. Who's that? Peyton?
Yep.
Hiya.
There's been one target drop since we left.
Oh, really? So I don't know if Maddie responded to your question, but yes, when we send Hercules down, she's able to take some samples and things with this awesome arms.
Can I add on to that? Because I learned some cool things about Hercules.
Yeah.
All right. So in addition to grabbing things with the arms, we also have a slurp tube. It's like a vacuum that's able to pull softer animals in and into these sort of almost like jars that we have mounted above the camera. We also have collection boxes on both the front and right side of Hercules that we can use to put away biological samples. And then occasionally we'll also have push cores, which are basically used to take samples of the sediment. In this case, because we're looking at a wreck, the Sikorsky S-42B, we probably won't be using the vacuum tube or the push cores, but we might be looking at using those bio boxes to take any samples if we do get to that point.
Yay. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
And thanks for following us over 3 years. That's awesome.
Was that the commenter?
Yeah, there's a follower that's thanking us for taking them along on the adventures.
Aw, that's really sweet.
So Chris, I think the plan is after this line is to move to the next south line.
Roger
to be
that.
like 10 or 9 or something like that.
That'll be a big turn.
Yeah. Just to give you a heads up.
Did I miss the Mona Lisa turn?
It wasn't that
It
great.
ended up being more Picasso, I think.